Wow.
Hi everybody. we just got the surprise ice bucket challenge. Hey, and we're live. P.S.
And there you go.
So welcome, guys. So in case you didn't catch it from that opening, we are live currently, coming to you from Newegg Studios in Southern California. And this today, the thing that we're doing is called Newegg Now.
Yes, it is. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell. This is Trisha Hirschberger here to, well, first of all, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank
for
you.
all of our discombobulated. You missed probably the most epic debate of what should we have on the screen behind us versus what's too distracting but still interesting.
Yeah, at one point it was a beautiful beach, and
it got real. It was pretty heavy.
There may be, depending which platform you're watching on, you might have been able to see what was going on, but not hear what was going on. So that's what was happening, in case you were wondering.
If you were curious. But we're on the YouTubes, we're on the Twitches. I'm seeing some activity on the Periscopes. I don't know if we're on the Mixers.
I think we are.
I think we are. So wherever you want to catch us, we're streaming just about anywhere you could stream. So hello to everyone out there.
Hello to everybody. So we have a very big show today, and a lot of what we want to do involves interaction with you guys.
Yeah.
So we've got eyes on the chat across all the different channels that Juan just mentioned, but the best place to be is always on Newegg.com/NeweggNow, because that's where you can watch along, join in with the live chat, and then check out the products that we talk about on the show as well. So it's a nice little synergy.
Yeah, you know.
I liked your typey type that you were doing.
Yeah, that's how you do the internets and use the computers. So right below that player on the Newegg Now page, you can see 5 key products we're going to be talking about when we dive into today's theme, which is building a budget gaming PC. Yeah?
Also, if you scroll down further on that Newegg Now page, you can click the banner to check out some special Newegg deals that are live right now that Juan and I picked out. We'll be going into those a little bit more in detail later in the show as well.
Yeah, so let's start things off. We want to talk to you about some of the recent poll questions that we've been putting out there on YouTube. We like to do these video viewer polls, just get your thoughts on hot tech topics. So let's start off. Let's talk about E3. Yeah, it's going to be here so soon. It's here before you know it, less than a month away. And on our next Newegg Now show, that's going to be on June 6th, we're going to do a full sort of E3 full court press preview, what we expect to see. But that doesn't mean we couldn't have a chat early about the value of an E3.
Yes, and I think that's a very interesting question to pose right now. Of course, E3 is still a huge convention. Gaming's bigger than ever, but companies' attitudes towards E3 seem to have been shifting.
Fluid.
Recently. So you've probably noticed companies like EA having their own events very close to E3, close in proximity, I mean, but at exactly the same time, instead of being tied to the physical show floor. And the big deal for 2019 is that Sony isn't really going to have much of a presence at the show this year. And they're obviously one of the big 3 when it comes to gaming companies.
Yeah, the big 3 of the big 3. So the full question we asked on YouTube, is E3 still important if companies like Sony and EA aren't there? So what do you guys think? Is E3 going the way of the dinosaurs? I mean, we have this kind of commentary on trade shows a lot, as sort of the mood or the tone of a trade show changes.
Well, now that people can watch a lot of the trailers and the stuff that they're excited to see from a trade show live streamed as it's being revealed, what is the need to actually be there? And I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day at a pre-E3 event that I'm not allowed to talk about. But we were talking about, are you actually going to go to the pressers when it's so much easier to just sit at home in your pajama pants
and live tweet the heck out of it.
And live tweet the heck out of it, right? Because when you actually go, usually the connection is awful.
Yeah.
And so even if you're like, I'm so excited for this thing that's happening, quick video, it won't send until after the presser's over anyway. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there. Now, that being said, a lot of people like to go to the press events for the food and beverage that is served there. But also, if you're trying to hit every press event, they're back to back to back. So you're running like a crazy person.
Right.
So, Juan, do you personally like to be at the trade show, at the event in person, or do you like to sit at home?
Increasingly, from the social media perspective, for example, we just had a major phone launch a couple days ago. I got hundreds of thousands of impressions on my tweets by not being there.
By not being
So again, for exactly what you were saying though, I can screen grab really clean. I don't have to worry, you know, like their camera angles are gonna be way better than my audience perspective camera phone, unless I had like a crazy long zoom lens, but I'm not gonna walk around with that kind of kit anymore. But what I like about the trade shows is getting kind of refueled when I'm on the show floor. So I like being on the show floor to check out what the vibe and the energy is, but the big keynotes and the big announcements are way easier and sort of like more fruitful to cover when I'm watching a live stream someplace comfy with good Wi-Fi.
And it used to be that companies would do cool stuff at those events, like, was it CES that they were like, and everyone who's at the Microsoft event, everybody who's here today gets an Xbox. Like when they first announced Xbox, and it was like, ah! So then there was like a really cool incentive to go.
Not so much anymore.
I do also think that there's something to be said for that live feeling of like, I'm watching it live, I'm here, that's so cool.
Right.
I enjoy seeing other people's experiences when they share
and
them.
it's one of our few times to check in with other work friends, you know? Like
That's
people
what it
who
ends
live
up
like,
being. I just want to see all my friends. Like I said, I was at this event the other night and just saw all my friends.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, the event ends at 9. Where are we all going after this?
Where's
because
the
I
after?
haven't seen you in months. So I am very excited for E3 this year. I'm excited for E3 every year. I super enjoy going to the shows, even though I know that I can watch it at home in my pajama pants. There's something, it's like live theater versus watching live theater pre-taped. You know, there's something about being there and that energy. And I always have a different agenda when I go to these shows than I feel like most of the mainstream media covers.
okay.
So I like to go check out the Indiecade. I like to go check out what the college competitions are doing.
Totally.
And a lot of that you don't see in the mainstream coverage.
Yeah, so we've got the poll results up here for us. 53% of people who responded to the poll said yes. E3, still very important. 25%
I will see you there.
said no. A quarter of the audience said no. And then 20% went with our joke answer, I'm still waiting for E4. I think it's kind of interesting from the company perspective, because I think you know, like a Sony or in EA is probably looking at the success of Nintendo Directs. Or in other
100%.
other categories, you know, like Samsung doesn't really participate with major trade shows because they'll hold their own event, and people will go to their own keynote all by themselves, you know, to cover a new phone launch or something like that. So I think it's kind of interesting to see what might fill the void that an EA or a Sony might leave, because that's a huge opportunity for an indie developer, for a Microsoft, for a Nintendo.
Yeah,
I mean,
hot take. I think Sony pulled out of E3 this year because they just don't have a lot to show. And they don't want to be in part of that conversation that everyone has of who won E3 this year. Because they just...
I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Right, yeah. I think that that's what it is, although it does come off in a very Apple at CES way of, I'm above this.
Oh, yeah, when you can't have that.
But I stopped going to EA's event years ago when it was pulled out of E3 but right next door. Then I went, but was it last year or the year before? I forget that they moved it all the way across town.
Yeah, EA's going to be in like Hollywood, right?
Yeah, that's where it was.
Which,
before.
if you don't live in Southern California, you look at it on a map and you're like, well, that doesn't seem too far. But it's like hours of travel.
Yeah, it's a lot of
if you're covering
traffic.
gaming events on the day.
So even if you're leaving an hour in between your E3 appointments, that's not enough time to get there. And I saw someone in chat, who was it? Someone in chat said, oh, come on, none of us are going to get the chance to go to E3 anyway, so let's move on to this budget build. But I will say, the last couple years, they have opened E3 up to the public. So what used to be an industry-only show, now people can go. And in my experience, that's changed E3 because the lines are so much longer. Because not every booth gives priority to press or media. So when you're there for a job, it makes things a lot more difficult. But the good side of that is that now everyone can go.
Totally.
So that's exciting.
So we've got a couple comments here from the YouTube poll, Stan J85. I don't think they'll be gone forever. I think Sony just doesn't have much right now since it's getting ready for the PS5 launch. It'll be back to show its new hardware and game lineup next year. Astralify, Cyberpunk is enough for me to care. Never cared about EA or Sony anyways.
CD Projekt Red, shout out.
Right.
I know, I'm so excited. I just got my confirmation of my Cyberpunk appointment this morning for E3 this year. So
it's hot. And then Colbrax 1996, Nintendo and Xbox can well make up for no PlayStation or EA. That to me is a huge, I want to see who steps up to sort of join the conversation of one of these big players. I have this dream. It's going to be like Control is suddenly going to have like a huge press spread or something, and we're going to be talking about something we never would have expected left field because we would have been hung up on a major Sony announcement or a major EA announcement.
Yep. I think Nintendo plays it really smart by having their Nintendo Directs in addition to, but then not withdrawing from, like still being a part of the greater E3 conversation while also having their own thing.
Well, because think about the bandwidth. Like, I feel like Nintendo's got a big spread of stuff to talk about. It's not going to be hinged on one big Smash Bros game.
Like last year?
Well, that's just it. Is now without the competition of a massive EA booth right outside, I think they've got a big opportunity to get a lot of light on their software solutions this year. Because this is also, I think, the best Nintendo's ever done at courting indie.
Well, yeah, Nindies are great. I mean, it's made me reinvest in my Switch again. Because, I mean, I got a Switch for Breath of the Wild and Odyssey, and then it went away for a while, and then Nindies. I do, however, hope that Nintendo at some point is like, you know what? We're going to share our software, too. Here you are, PC gamers.
Yeah.
That'd be real nice.
That'd be nice. Just two more comments here. I'm Jay Gott. When it comes to games, I think E3 isn't as big as it used to be since it can all be done by the companies themselves. Most of the games they showcase are still in development and are unplayable. On the tech side of things, shows like CES and others are needed since the products are more hands-on or are in their final stages.
Maybe. I still go to E3 for games.
Totally.
That's what I'm there for. I'm not expecting big hardware announcements at E3 at all. Although the hardware booths are fun to check out because sometimes they do have new cool stuff, but for the most part, I'm still in it for games. But yeah, now that the lines are so long, sometimes you're like, well, I played 2 games today in my 9-hour show flow day.
That was E3 for me. Like, I spent so long waiting to play Spider-Man that
There are years I just flat out skipped the Nintendo booth. Because I was like, the line
Oh,
to
that
get
line is
into
crazy.
the Nintendo booth was like 3 hours long. And
Oh, man.
No.
And then
I'll look it up online.
Ruru2M YouTube is the new E3.
In some respects.
That's all you get.
Yeah,
YouTube.
in some respects.
Done. Okay, let's switch gears, get a bit more technical. We had another poll. This one I fought to kind of put in because I get real interested in this like new wave of mobile and computing and stuff. So we were talking about processors and specifically the battle that's going to be coming down. I think it's going to be a big showdown. ARM chipsets versus x86 in laptops. So for those of you who don't follow this world too closely, ARM processors are just the little mobile chipsets, RISC. Reduced instruction set computer architecture that you find in phones and tablets.
I didn't know that's what that stood for. Thank you, Juan.
Reduced instruction set. And then x86, on the other hand, is CISC, which is a complex instruction set. That's not really what's so critical. What we're seeing is we're trying to make, we've been on a tear. We've been trying to make laptop processors more power efficient. At the same time as we've been trying to make phone processors beefier and more powerful.
So yeah, they're kind of merging.
They're coming the same. So for the technicalities of this topic, that can get complicated, but essentially we've turned to ARM for things that are a little bit more battery precious, and we've turned to x86 for things that need more horsepower, and that's kind of meeting in the middle now.
And good for us that it's meeting in the middle, because I will say I've had the opportunity to play around with some laptops that are powered by ARM processors, and while yes, they do not move as fast in general, I don't think we're quite there yet from a performance standpoint. The like multi-day battery life, if you're traveling, especially.
Well, because you went you have an AO PC, right?
An always connected PC.
Is it AC PC? Is
AC
that what they're
PC.
saying? Not always on?
Yeah, it's always connected
Always
PC.
connected. Okay.
At least that's what Qualcomm's using for their processing tech.
What they put in there? Is it a Snapdragon 835?
I do not know off the top of my head. It's been a while since I played with that unit. But I will say multi-day battery life was a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
And that was really nice. And I, for me, decided that, because it's not a laptop that I'm going to be using for heavy gaming
Right.
or for streaming, God forbid, or for rendering video or anything like that. I am not the use case for that. But someone like my husband, who's a much lighter use case consumer, he loves it. It's actually his favorite laptop in the house. So it is now essentially his.
Here you go, hon.
Yep.
I'm saying I never got you anything.
He adores it. Mostly for the battery life, but yeah, and the light size, and like there are benefits to that. But
so I did like a little, because I'm wrapping up a long-term review.
What was your poll for this? I'm curious.
So the poll was, could you go ARM for your next laptop? Like, is it there now? And just so we can say like when you've got good software. I was flipping this. This is like a little sort of a MacBook Air competitor Windows PC.
It's very tiny.
It's a little Core i7.
Yeah.
8th gen. Got a decent amount of RAM, decent solid state drive. My phone can render 4K video faster than this thing can. Now, we get into issues with thermals and power management and that kind of stuff, but like if you're on a current ARM chipset, like it's real close now. And there are a bunch of companies that are, like Samsung has a desktop mode, Huawei has a desktop mode that's coming in Android Q. I just bought on Kickstarter, there's a dock which is about this size. You plug your phone into, and then the phone just drives everything on the screen.
Like you said, these worlds, the mobile and laptop world, are so closely coming together. I don't know if we mentioned it too, that ARM processing takes away the need for fans, which makes your units a lot smaller. So that's another advantage. But yeah, these worlds are colliding very quickly.
So in our poll, ARM is the future, 60% of the vote. So
ARM is the future. People are into it.
Far and away. I mean, like, again, to me, it's a question of software. Is we get Adobe to jump on some of this stuff, and that's huge.
Well, but you've seen like we're gonna go with the pared back, more Chromebook-esque browser only operating systems, and that's gonna be what we need to partner with ARM, and we haven't really seen tremendous success in those areas either.
Not at all. So no, it's all about x86, 34% of the vote, and computers are a fad, for 4% of the vote.
Your last option on all these polls is cracking me up.
It's good times.
And yes, Marcel, this is a smartwatch.
Yeah.
Just because every now and then we need to be like, yes, that's right, we're live.
Oh. Hey. Oh, hey, look at that. Okay, good. Some comments from the YouTube poll. Rio Pato 2009. I want a fast and powerful Windows on ARM device that has a 24-hour, if not 48-hour battery. The Lenovo Yoga C630 is the closest thing to the best of both worlds, but lacks the performance.
And it's fun. I have to say, in my experience, is fine performance-wise for most everyday
great
tasks.
Performance-wise.
Just not for the really high use case scenarios.
And also, I mean, like, for a lot of the people we're talking to today.
Yeah, you guys, I would venture to say 98% of people watching today, if not more, are high-performance users.
A cut above.
Yeah.
And then also have, I think, an appreciation for things like gaming that goes beyond, like, I can play Fortnite on my Android, like.
Right, but at the same time, when you kind of see this shift in the tech industry, it's exciting because of where it could go.
Totally.
Yeah.
So this one's a little longer from Kevin Delaney. If ARM legitimately decides to get into the x86 realm, Intel and AMD won't stand a chance. Ooh. So Intel is at a 14 nanometer up to 5 gig with the 9900K. That's a high-end chipset. ARM Cortex A76 is a 7 or 8 nanometer, but their Hercules line is rumored to be based on dynamic IQ technology and will be optimized for both the latest 5 and 7 nanometer nodes, already at 3 gigahertz, but the wattage is absurdly low at like 5 watts. If you look at the total wattage compared to Intel's ARM, ARM will destroy them. ARM is far, far superior as far as performance per size is concerned, and they own so many industries such as consumer electronics, mobile processors. If Intel and AMD aren't afraid, they really should be.
I love this comment.
That's a good part of the chat. Because obviously, you can't talk clock to clock and fabrication to fabrication. So what x86 does at 10 nanometers is very different than what ARM's doing at 7 or 8 nanometers.
Yes.
Instruction sets are completely different, pathways completely different, power management completely different. But at the end of the day, consumers don't care. And so when we're looking, we used to make that joke.
It's all about the user experience.
You bought a $3,000 PC to check Facebook, and now we're having like, you bought a $1,000 phone to check Facebook.
Yeah.
And increasingly, we're seeing that parity of performance for what you're actually doing when your face is in front of the screen, and it doesn't feel any different.
That's what my friends all made fun of me when the Chromebook came out for
It
being
doesn't
like,
feel
this is
any different.
a really good unit for what it is. Everyone, you know, they were like, oh, what a tech hipster walking around with your Chromebook. And I was like, dude, I have my gaming PC at home. For most things I do when I'm on the go, this is a lot easier.
It doesn't feel any
functions
different.
Better for it. So it's a lot of that same conversation. But Juan, I believe, I always credit you with coining the term megapixels.
Yes. And giggle flips.
And talking about how people are so overly concerned with specs when it doesn't necessarily, for their use, translate. That it's a little silly, but.
Well, I mean, as a quick tangent, you recently spent some time with the new Pixel.
The Pixel 3a?
I'm still using the Pixel 3a as my main daily driver phone number in the phone.
It's a great phone, and the fact that it's at, I mean, it's sad to say that $400 is mid-tier now, but it's for being a mid-range consumer phone, it's outstanding. I mean, the 3XL is my usual daily driver.
For sure.
And when I compare the two, I mean, I did miss the wireless charging, so that's not on the 3A.
Again, not
but
without
you
some
got the
compromises.
headphone jack back, which is nice. And the battery's bigger in the 3A. But the camera, with the exception of the wide selfie cam, is exactly the same. And to be able to get that technology, which arguably, you could say that the Pixel 3 XL has the best still photography on the market, on the phone market right now, arguably.
Say auto mode, definitely.
Some people would say that. But the fact that the 3A is offering that for $400 is insane.
Yeah, for me, it's super exciting in that it's not for me because I do enjoy gaming on my phone.
Right.
And that's the one thing, like the GPU, holding it back a little bit. Everything else, it feels exactly the same as a more expensive phone. And just became the easiest phone for me to recommend to my family and friends who are more on the frugal side of that smartphone conversation. Because it's going to feel unlike anything they've ever spent less than iPhone money for a phone. Yeah. It's so good.
I recommended it to both my parents.
So, today's show.
Yeah.
Sorry, we went on a little tangent there.
So yeah, thank you again to that last comment that was so long and informative. I absolutely loved it. We've got some experts out there in the Newegg audience, and that's why it's so fun to involve you guys in the conversation. So thank you to everyone who shared your thoughts with us. And remember, if you're not already subscribed to Newegg Studios on YouTube, to get on that so that you can vote in more of those upcoming polls and be part of this larger conversation.
We want to hear from you.
Yes.
Totally.
So let's get to today's show, because I know everyone in chat's like, I need to know about the budget build.
What I love is, like, you guys have been putting together some amazing builds already in the chat.
Yeah.
On this, so today's show is, we're going to build a budget gaming PC live. Well, not us. Our hands aren't going to be on.
No.
I really wanted our hands to be on, but really we called in someone more qualified. That's really the main
who we will introduce in just a second.
Yeah. But because this is also like a gaming adjacent stream, as we talk about,
we're talking about not just a budget PC, but a budget gaming PC.
So what have you been playing? We haven't checked in for a couple weeks. So.
Well, I would say for the past month or so, I've been absolutely loving, just drowning in Frostpunk. Which came out in 2018, and it's so good, and I'm so in love with it and addicted, and it completely took me by surprise. One of my Twitch viewers was like, you probably really like this game, you should check it out. And so I streamed it once, and then was like, this is my new obsession, need to play all the time. So Frostpunk is great. I also just went through Life is Strange 2, Episode 3, which came out this past weekend, I think. Very nice. And warning for anyone out there who likes to play games with their children around, it is not safe for work. It's also not safe for work. It was a lot more scandalous than I was expecting it to be.
Fair enough.
For a Life is Strange game. Newegg West was like, wait, is that the same series as that Captain Spirit game? And I'm like, oh, yes, it was. That super wholesome Captain Spirit game. Same thing. Not super wholesome in episode 3 of Life is Strange 2. Just a warning. What have you been playing lately?
So from our chat a couple weeks ago, I wrapped up Dandara.
Oh, have you loved it?
I love it. Okay. It's just such a great throwback to Metroid, platforming, non-linear, some beautiful storytelling. I jumped onto it because of Android. They came out with a great Android port of this PC game, but you can get it on Steam too.
And Humble.
And it came in a Humble bundle.
So
if you were doing the Humble bundle, you got it's fire it up. It's such a great throwback to 16-bit gaming. Because it was on sale on Android, I'm just kind of dabbling with some KOTOR again.
Okay.
Like I needed to play that again.
That's always a good time.
And then I spent some time. I am not good at From Software games. Sekiro. It's not even like I rage quit. It's like I literally put the controller down from exhaustion, grinding on things that I don't think are really supposed to be that hard.
I don't know how to tell you this, but they're intentionally made that difficult. You are allowed to rage quit.
Okay, no, so like rage quit would be one thing, because like what I find I'm having a problem with is I'm never getting to that breakthrough moment like I did with Dead Souls.
Okay.
Where all of a sudden something clicks.
Dark Souls?
I mean, Dark Souls.
Yes.
Thank you. I mixed Dead Souls.
I was like Dead
Space
Cells and Dark Souls?
Dark Souls.
Cool.
Where Dark Souls, something would click, and then like you're playing jazz, and I'm not getting there with Sekiro. Like I'm just like slamming in, and I'm over and over and over, and I know it's like a live, die, repeat, live, die, repeat.
Yeah,
live,
it's
die,
an
repeat.
incredibly difficult learning curve.
Super
on
difficult.
Purpose. Very punishing.
And I'm not getting frustrated.
Yeah.
I'm just getting exhausted. And then I put my controller down and I walk away for a couple days. And with Dark Souls, it used to be I'd walk away, come back, and something would snap. And I'd be able to kind of like push through it, and I'm not getting there. And I know it's me.
Well,
and that makes me sad.
I wish you the best of luck with your Sekiro journey.
I don't know how much longer.
Okay.
Because there's some really good games coming up.
There's some
soon
really good
too,
games.
that I don't know I'm really going to I don't think I'm going to make it through.
Okay.
Sekiro,
well, we all send good vibes to Juan for his From Software journey, but we're here because we want to play games on a brand new PC, but don't necessarily have the money to spend a lot of money on putting a new system together. So we're going to talk about how to build a gaming PC with a more modest budget.
Oh, show.
So PC gaming has a reputation for being very expensive, and if that's true, that definitely can be true if you're going to the higher end graphics cards, the higher end components, etc. If you need the latest and greatest. And of course, we all do want to have the best gaming experience. And if you want the best gaming experience, you do have to use the pretty cutting edge technology. And that is not very cheap.
No.
However,
that said,
you can put together a surprisingly affordable gaming rig for just a little more than the most powerful consoles on the market currently, and you'll have a much more versatile machine when you're done building.
That's the thing that always makes me excited about trying to track back to a budget build is I like flexible hardware.
Yeah.
That makes me very excited. So that's why we decided we're going to walk through some options for putting together your own lower priced PC. And to help us out, we've been joined in the studio by Newegg Ninja Mike.
Yay!
I'm going to say hey to Mike. Mike's a good dude. We like working with Mike.
Woohoo!
He's put together some of our awesome themed builds, too. So if you've been following us on the socials and you've been seeing some of the crazy work that he's done, so he's an excellent resource for us here. So we're over here. We've got a build set up, and he's going to be putting the parts of that budget build together as we talk through it today.
Live.
We're doing it live. I have no idea how this is going to sync up. If we're going to talk faster than he can put things together, or if he's going to beat us in getting this all assembled while we try and explain
I don't know.
what he's
Fingers
doing.
crossed. A live build is not easy.
All right, so do we? Okay, over under in the chat. Vegas odds. Do you think we can get it to post?
We'll see. And guys, as we go through today, no pressure, Mike. As we go through the show today, please remember that we do have eyes on the chat. So share your budget PC building recommendations like you've been doing so far. We want to see them. Okay, now, when you're putting together a build, budget or otherwise, the case is a good place to start.
As good a place as
Your case can be one of the cheaper pieces of a build without it having too big of an impact on performance, which is awesome. So having enough space and proper cable routing is important for sure, but you can definitely cut some costs here if you want to. So Newegg's Rosewell brand has a huge selection of cases from the higher end down to some great entry-level options, including some micro ATX options that start at just $25.
$25. So for our budget build today, we chose the Spectra D100 from Rosewell. This runs around $80. So it has some built-in RGBs, as has been mentioned in the live chat on numerous occasions. The more RGBs, the higher the FPS is, right?
No!
That's how it works. And this front of the case has plenty of speed holes. You need some speed holes if you're going to go faster.
You're ridiculous.
Good built-in RGB lighting provides you a little bit of extra flair. Just because it's a budget build doesn't mean that you can't have some aesthetic. He's looking for the speed holes right now. So show that case Mike is working on camera so people can get a sense of the construction and size of it. But it's a good all-rounder ATX form factor so that you got space. Because that's another thing that's exciting about budget over gaming console is upgrading.
Yes, and this is also a very upgrade-friendly case.
Yes, so if you decide to get new hardware over time, you don't need to get a whole new home for it. Has plenty of room for liquid cooling if you want to go that route later. I don't know what just dropped, but it sounded heavy. The Spectra D100 also has 4 pre-installed 120mm case fans, already off to a good start when it comes to cooling. You could certainly go cheaper with your case.
Yes.
But you just want to make sure that you're looking through the specs, you're looking through the size, and that it's got room for everything that you want to put into it. So.
Yeah, I have a history of going super budget on my case because I don't care. I'm like, a plain black tower is totally fine. But being here all the time and seeing the gorgeous builds put together here, I'm like...
I had to step up my game too. So what was like the cheapest? You went with something super cheap for a case.
The cheapest, like a secondhand, just straight up black tower. Don't even remember what it was. Like free. The cheapest was free. What about you?
So I repurposed a compact. I think it was a Pavilion. You remember those old beige boxes?
Yes.
I did 3 builds in that thing where I would like bend the frame and resolder brackets and like I'm gonna make this work. And then I got my NZXT, and that's what I think 10 years of computers were in that NZXT. It's the one if you catch, we did like a Valentine's
build.
The Franken build. So when I went to a 1080 Ti, the internal I had a 240 case fan wouldn't fit against the 1080 Ti
what did you
anymore.
Do?
So I put it on the outside and made a mesh cover. So there's this lump of 240mm fan just sticking out the side of my old Phantom case. And that's when I finally decided it was time to put the Phantom to rest. But
as we said, you can go real budget on your case if you want to, but you don't have to. Look what you can get for $25. All right, Next up, it's time to select our budget motherboard. So for this build, we went with an ASRock B365M Pro 4, and there are a few reasons for that. It's close to entry level at about $80, but it has everything we were looking for, including 2 PCIe slots, 2 M.2 connections, and even RGB headers if you want to light things up in your life a little bit more. Mike, can we get a look at that ASRock motherboard? Do you have it there?
It's gonna pop that out. I guess we should have mentioned at some point we were gonna do an Intel build.
Oh yeah, I saw everyone in chat giving guesses.
We'll chat about some AMD too, because it's not like we're saying anything negative about AMD. It's not one as a preference over the other. It was just where we were looking at the components we most had readily available.
For this budget build.
We thought we could do a good job with an Intel build there. All right, Mike, hold that puppy back up again. We still got hands on.
Please don't cut your fingers.
Ooh,
Yeah, so beautiful.
Pretty.
So beautiful. I feel like anytime that, I don't know what you want, anytime I'm asked to like Vanna a motherboard, the chances that I nick myself are...
So again, I think I've cut myself on camera for this show twice now from motherboards.
Like
I actually had to get the first aid kit Band-Aid just before we went live.
That was a joke of mine when I did a like beginner's guide to building your own PC over for the show that I do for Kingston Technology. And my joke the entire day we were filming was like, just make sure we have Band-Aids on hand.
Right.
By
the end of a day of shooting, you're going to see like Band-Aids all over. I need to do, that's my next April Fool's video, is doing...
And just bleed everywhere?
Yeah.
That would be funny.
Doing a Verge-style build, but it's more about hurting myself than getting everything wrong.
Yep. Okay, so back to the motherboard. You could probably get your budget down another $20 or so if you're willing to forego a few of the features that I mentioned earlier. Cool. And Newegg has just about every brand to choose from if you want to see how inexpensive you can go with this purchase. But we also went with this board because of the 1151 socket support. Now that means it supports both 9th and 8th gen Intel CPUs, which is perfect for us. So as always, you want to make sure that your CPU matches the socket type on the motherboard that you're buying.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
You know, it's one of those things like I still feel like that's one of the few nerdy barriers for people getting into PC building. Is you have like your sort of your generations, you have your socket types, and then you also have like your chipset types. So you might be reading up on a certain chipset and it's a certain generation, and then you might have multiple sockets supporting that gen. It's one of the few things like some of those resources online for kind of putting all those pieces together.
PC part picker?
Or the PC build kits here at Newegg.
Or that?
That too.
Wow, that's not the one I've been using for decades. But Newegg Now.
We're doing it live. So let's talk about CPUs. One of the most important and priciest components of any build. So we're going with an Intel chip. They have a huge range of options when it comes to gaming PCs, but we wanted to focus mostly on sort of a lower end of the price spectrum as an option. That doesn't have to mean old, though, which is why we ultimately decided on the 6-core i5-9400F, which is a 9th gen chip. So it does not have integrated graphics built in. If you're building a gaming PC, even on a budget build, you're gonna need a dedicated GPU. So we're fine without built-in graphics. So we're hitting $169. We're in good budget price territory.
Which is awesome. And I see Theo Yells on Twitch chat giving a shout out to Mike, the hand model. And I would like to give that shout out to Mike right now. Thank you for that. So yeah, we did go with Intel, but as many of you predicted, a lot of you were thinking we were going to go AMD. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a sec. AMD has some excellent budget options as well.
Ryzen is so good right now.
Yes, like the quad-core Ryzen 5 2400G for $140.
So good.
That chip currently comes with a copy of the Division 2, which is the perfect way to test out your new build.
How nuts is it that it's like the game it comes with is almost half the price of the chip that's going to drive the game that you're going to play.
It's a screaming deal.
That's hilarious.
So, but do just keep in mind, if you go with an AMD CPU, you need to make sure you select a compatible motherboard. Again, motherboard compatibility, really important. If you do go Ryzen, the Asus Prime A320MK AM4 board is a really great option at only $62. It's a fantastic deal. And though it's a micro ATX board, it will fit in our Rose Wheel case or just about any case that you choose pretty nicely.
Yeah, and again, we saw some love in the live chat for Asus motherboards. Again, I mean, it's like we've had JJ on to talk about Asus a lot. But Screamin' Dad on YouTube, another decent option, super budget build, the AMD 2400G. I set one up for my son, and he can run his games medium pretty well.
Whoa.
A-series will hopefully be better too when the new ones arrive. And that's another thing too is, hopefully one of the things that we can kind of express as we start putting all these pieces together is, you can also plan out for what type of gaming you do.
Yes.
If you need twitchier, higher, faster frame rates, or if you want something that's a little bit more lush and open world and exploration, that's another nice thing about having hands-on with this hardware. That's why there isn't one winner budget build, is because you have the ability to fine-tune for specifically what it is that you're hoping to do. So,
absolutely.
All solid CPUs. I mean, it's even silly to call them entry-level.
Yeah, so we have to say, like, technically within the budget
of
within the economy class. I don't even know what the technical terms are, but yes.
People get real mad when I say like a $400 phone is a mid-ranger, like I'm insulting it. And you're like, it's the same thing. It's like a quad-core AMD chipset, a 6-core 9th gen Intel chipset.
It's also hard to use the word budget because everyone's budget is different. So what does that really mean?
That's true. So for the vast majority of games, the CPU at this range, that sub $200 range, you're going to be doing fine, especially with 1080p gaming. Where we're going to run into some bottlenecks might be the GPU.
Yeah.
So well before your CPU is the problem, that's where we want to kind of look at what types of things you're doing. Again, CPUs aren't designed, these CPUs, these sort of budget CPUs, not designed for incredibly intensive tasks like video, professional rendering, heavy game streaming, although I'd still say they'd be more flexible for those. Because we're going to be building a machine that has a dedicated GPU. Your video rendering software might use the GPU to do the rendering.
Yeah, you've got more options there.
You have a little more more flexibility, even if it's not
You do. I still don't know that this is the build that I would go
No.
for.
But I'm saying, this is mostly for those people out there that have to make an argument to like
Yeah.
a significant other or a parent. Is like, if you wanted to cut up some family videos on vacation, this box is going to be a little bit more versatile.
Yes,
for that.
agreed.
You can make that argument.
Totally
I think
agree.
I'm going higher pitched. So you're going to need to spend more if you want professional grade hardware, obviously. But for the gaming we're doing and for the sort of multifunction computing that we're looking at, these CPUs more than have you covered.
Yeah.
You're good. So the CPU's already in there, right? Like, we're all good?
You did it.
Oh, he's even got a fan on it. Awesome.
Hey.
So heatsink is on.
Okay,
again,
so
Mike is going way faster than we're
He's
talking.
going faster than us. Okay,
let's go.
so we've got our CPU.
Let's do
Let's
this.
talk RAM. You can certainly get very fancy RAM. We have seen RAM here at Newegg, and I think we showed it off on Newegg Now, that is designed to look like it's made of gold and topped with diamonds. It was slightly ridiculous,
was
but you do
bedazzled.
you. If that's your aesthetic, great. But given the budget goal here, we're going to go a little bit of a different route. RGB lights and crazy heat sinks are all well and good, but sometimes you just want straightforward, simple memory. So that's what we're talking about here with Mike. So if we want
hold on, Mike. Show it off one more time.
Yeah, show it off,
No,
please.
you're down by the motherboard. You were fine. You were fine. Oh, you're bringing it up, catching the light.
Beauteous.
Ballistics. Oh, so yeah, I thought we were going even heat sinkless. No, we're doing fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, looking good. All right. So for our budget build, we went with 8 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 speed ballistic sport RAM for $50.
Woo.
So 8 gig, not a huge number, but it's gonna be fine for day-to-day computing tasks and even for gaming at the settings we're shooting for. Again, you can always add more later. And again, we would double that, 16 gigs for another $50. We're still in a pretty good lower wallet impacting price
Yes.
tier. So as you can see, like we said, it's not the flashiest, but it will absolutely get the job done. And it's coming in at about half the price of some of the other popular gaming RAM, funky heat spreader, RGB options that you could shop.
Cool. Can we see it? Can we see it over there?
Yeah, can we cut back over? I'm still just looking at I want to see the computer.
We can cut back.
There
Oh,
we
there
go.
we go. There we go.
And I really like this purple lighting.
Woot woot.
Yeah, again, I love
Very
it
nice.
that even these sort of more entry-level boards are including multiple M.2. That was such a huge shift for me going on my Threadripper build.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all my project files live on a separate M.2, and it's so fast. Again, getting everything properly fed in my system was a huge upgrade.
It makes a huge difference.
And so speaking of,
Okay, yes. Now that we have our RAM, we need a place to store our game.
I kind of jumped the gun there. Sorry, I was
That's
just,
okay. It was a beautiful segue.
Just loved the shot on that motherboard there.
Yes. So M.2 SSDs used to be incredibly expensive, but fortunately for all of us, that has changed a lot in the past year, really.
sure.
M.2 is a nice form factor in that it's smaller and doesn't require extra cables like 2.5-inch drives. A SATA M.2 is a good option. It's cheaper than the faster NVMe version, though it's still plenty fast for, I would say,
so
most
great.
users, and you'll still get all of the benefits of the form factor.
Oh, for sure. It's real. I mean, again, just how crazy fast this storage has taken over. Where
Yes.
it was only like 2 or 3 years ago, we were still putting out those videos or those articles like how to speed up your PC with a solid state drive.
Yeah.
And you know, we would get into those forum conversations like, oh man, I could only afford getting a 60 gig boot drive for my operating system, and I'm putting everything onto like a 500 gig spinning disk.
Yes,
hilarious how fast.
In
that
my
changed.
previous pre-YouTube lifetime, when I did marketing for Samsung's IT, we would talk about SSDs quite a bit because this was back in that time when SSDs were super expensive.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they are a little bit more accessible now.
Super, and that now even M.2. Oh god, I just love seeing that progress is pretty intense.
Yeah, all of it. All right. So let's see if we can cut over and check out what Mike's doing right now. How's that looking? Beautiful.
Oh wow, he's like really getting it in there.
Very nice.
All right, let's see. And he's mounting this like, oh!
That's okay, back to us! Great! Or you can go with a 2.5-inch SSD for even cheaper than M.2.
He caught it on the first bounce. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
We're covering. This is why it's hilarious.
So, okay.
To do builds live. Can we talk about the vertical build, though, for a second? That's what you're going to do?
I really want to point that out because,
yes.
Again, we're trying to set up like a camera angle, right? So a little love for your favorite YouTubers out there. It is really hard to show off components, get good video of it. The people that you follow on YouTube that do that well, it is not easy.
It is not easy. No,
you gotta give them a thumbs up just for getting good product photography of this stuff. And our ninjas work their butts off to try and make this stuff look good in the moment. So just the fact that he made it that far, I just want to give him the thumbs up.
Yeah.
I have big trouble trying to pull off those kinds of video shots.
Everybody who, I would say there's not a dang person in the world that would choose to do a build with
vertical.
Vertical. No, but it does look so much nicer on camera. So yeah, kudos to the content creators and the folks out there thinking about the production. And doing it that way.
And doing it live.
And doing it live. So yes, it's laid down now.
Back to
storage.
The storage.
So yeah, as I was mentioning, you can go with a 2.5-inch SSD for even cheaper than M.2, which is what we did just to highlight the sheer amount of options when it comes to storage. So we went with a 256 gigabyte Plex Store SATA 2.5-inch SSD, again from Plex Store, which you can pick up for $40 on Newegg right now. It's pretty incredible how cheap storage has gotten over the last few years. I can't stress that enough. It's so good.
Great. So when we talk about these things, we could recommend a small M.2, like we said, some of the pricing differences and stuff. But that's also what's killer is you can make that transition. So you can start with a $40 solid state drive. That's plenty of room to put your operating system, a bunch of games on. A few games.
Depending on your game
Depending on what you play. Again, I just recently wrapped up Dundara. That's not a big game. Cuphead, Ape Out, we're talking hundreds of meg. You're fine. But then you have that immediate upgrade path that doesn't interrupt anything. So you can keep that as your boot drive, pop in an M.2, or you could transfer everything over, do the drive transfer, and then still have your solid state drive.
Yes.
Ready to go too. So again, it's just the thing that we keep coming back to and keep celebrating is just how nice it is to have the room, the space, and the upgrade potential without having to scrap everything. Even if you start out at a lower tier, you've got plenty of room to grow.
Yep, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. And speaking of Seagate, we wanted to highlight a really special Newegg email deal that's going on right now.
Okay.
So you do need to be signed up for Newegg's email deals to take advantage of this one because we have some deals that are specifically only emailed out. So if you aren't already subscribed, consider this a good argument for why you might need to do that for future email deals. So the Seagate FireCuda Gaming Hybrid 2 terabyte, 2.5-inch internal hard drive is available for just $61.99 with the promo code for a limited time. This promo code is only redeemable by existing Newegg email subscribers. So to make sure that you don't miss out on future deals, go to the Newegg.com homepage and sign up.
You should do that.
How's that image?
We just had 4 people over there, so I had to night sight sort of an accidental Renaissance photo of Mike working with lightsaber.
I feel like
lighting.
that should be your new website banner, Mike. Sending this to you
is a good.
after the show.
I'm gonna give this. It's a good shot. You look intense. It's looking good.
What's the thing on Facebook? The top image?
Yeah, the banner.
Your banner. Yeah, your banner shot. Yeah. So Mike has a new banner. It's good. All right. I'll post it on my Twitter. You can watch. You can see it later. That's not really what we're doing for the show. So if you already get Newegg emails, make sure you check them out so you don't miss deals like the one Trisha just described. If you're trying to build a PC on a budget, a great way to do it is to pick up components over time when they get discounted like this. So you can pick up parts when they're available for great prices, like the Seagate FireCuda drive. And over a few months, you might end up with a lower price system than you'd get if you bought it all at once.
Yep, absolutely. Got to wait for them good deals. Now, let's move on to possibly the most important part of any gaming build, The GPU. This is the hardware that has the biggest impact on your gaming experience. And in 2019, there are a lot of strong choices to consider, which is awesome. Both NVIDIA and AMD are regularly putting out new cards across various price ranges, and that includes budget cards that are just what we're looking for today. NVIDIA's newest entry in this market is the GTX 1650, which is a great option for an entry-level gaming rig.
That's not what I'm holding right now.
No.
Well, while we talk this through, we're going to let's throw to some game benchmarks so you can see what we're talking about. All of these benchmark scores come via Tech Power Up. So you can check out the link in the description if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of what these cards are capable of. Now, keep in mind, they used an 8700K CPU to get these numbers, so your frame rate will vary a bit from what you see here if you're building closer to the tier that we're building. You should still be able to get a sense of the performance difference, however. So if we cut to that.
Do we have the benchmarks?
Yeah, can we put those up?
Great.
Oh, okay, so there's Far Cry 5.
Heyo. So as we were saying, the GTX 1650 is the smallest and most affordable entry in NVIDIA's Turing line, though it doesn't support ray tracing or deep learning super sampling. We're looking at benchmarks for the MSI Gaming X1650 card, and keep in mind all of these benchmarks are running at maximum settings at 1920 by 1080. You can get more frames if you're willing to drop the settings. With the GTX 1650 in this configuration, you're looking at around 60 frames per second in Far Cry 5, and in the 80s for Wolfenstein 2. Battlefield 5 is hovering around 60 as well, which is what we're shooting for.
Yeah, it's really just a shame that the human eye can't see more than 24 frames per second.
You know.
You know, it's just kind of like this is such an overkill if you think about it. It just makes me sad. If only we could evolve to see. Sorry, I'll stop. So things are going to start dropping when you get into open world games. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, an example of a game that even higher end cards can struggle with.
Dude,
it's
Odyssey wrecked my rig.
Seriously?
Well, to be fair,
we've been joking about this off camera for a while as to what your upgrade path was going to look like.
I know. I need to upgrade pretty hard.
Is Odyssey really the one that pushed you over?
Well, it pushed me over trying to stream and play from the same PC.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let me qualify that because I do have a nice rig right now.
Totally.
But yeah, it was trying to stream a game from the same PC. But Odyssey did it.
Well, we're going to chat later then about what Trisha's new build is going to be because I'm excited for that. So you're looking at 30 frames per second with the 1650. Same with Monster Hunter World, Ghost Recon, Wildlands. There you're talking about you can drop the quality settings to get your frame rate up higher if you want to shoot for that. So starting at around $150. 150.
Yeah.
A GTX 1650 is a great card for 1080p gaming if you don't mind everything being at ultra for every game you play, but you can make that really targeted price conversation. Again, what we were talking about earlier is depending on what gaming you're doing, that might be the exact right card.
It might be. I mean, this 1650 is a really exciting entry-level card. It is.
Totally.
And we're looking forward to building with it. But for today's build, we did not go with that. We went a step up and chose the GTX 1660 from Zotac. Let's go ahead and see that on
actually,
camera.
I have it here in the
Mike's
box.
doing stuff, so Juan is going to be our hand model.
I'll hand model for this
for
one.
today. So this is the successor to NVIDIA's GTX 1060. It's a bit more expensive than the 1650 at $220, but for that extra money, you're getting substantially more power. With the 1660,
I don't have a static strap.
Oh no!
What am I gonna do? I need my
with that?
my Livestrong bracelet.
Are we okay with that? I guess we're okay with that.
I'm just gonna hold it.
Okay. Perfect. So with the 1660, you are looking at 6 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM and excellent cooling, and that means over 60 frames per second for most AAA titles at 1920 by 1080, which is what we're shooting for with this specific build. There's also room for overclocking if you want to squeeze even more frames out of your card. But yeah, for $220.
$220.
Nice.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
This is such a cute little card. So again, we've got the benchmarks from Tech Power Up, but we're seeing significant increases from the 1650. Definitely worth the additional costs. Battlefield went from around 60 FPS to 80s. Wolfenstein 2 went from 80s all the way up to 140 frames per second. That's a nice perk. That's a
It
nice
is.
bump.
That's a big difference.
And that's also where we see some of those improvements for open world games. Again, Assassin's Creed Odyssey went from barely 30 frames per second to around 50 frames per second. Ghost Recon got bumped from 32 to, 46 frames per second. Those are pretty big jumps for what I would say is a reasonable cost upgrade. And that makes sense when you see that kind of performance improvement, and we're talking about budget cards. This stuff is getting way better at the lower price tiers. It's super exciting.
Yeah, and again, if you wanted to go AMD, they have great GPU options in this space as well.
Yeah, they do.
Pretty much any Radeon 570 or 580 will get you into this sweet spot of 1080p at over 60 frames per second, and they vary in cost anywhere from $120 to $220. So you have plenty of choice there. Between NVIDIA's 16 series line and AMD's Radeon 570 or 580, you should be in great shape for 1080p gaming.
Right. I mean, you want that like 2080 Ti for your Minecraft, right? On your...
You hurt my heart.
Last, we do need something to power all of this tech. PSUs, power supplies, they're not going to be the most expensive part of your build, but you want to be sure you're getting consistency, reliability. You want to keep the rest of your components properly powered, and you want to do it without letting out the magic smoke. That's always bad.
I've never heard it phrased that way.
So I get that's I only let out the magic smoke once.
Okay.
So for what we're dealing with here, I don't know, 450 watts, somewhere in that ballpark should be fine. We're looking at for what we're looking at, and that means you can get away with something around $40 or $50. And I would say you probably, for a build like this, while it's nicer, the aesthetics, the cable management, everything gets a little bit tidier, you probably don't need modular.
Okay.
You could probably walk away from that, but what I would say is you do want to be making sure that the power efficiency is still up there. Like at least go with an 80 plus bronze. So you could check out Corsair, EVGA, Rosewill, Thermaltake. Tons of options.
Tons of options.
Tons of options that you can shop on. I don't know, like a retail site that you might want to shop on.
Yeah.
Like
maybe something that rhymes with spew egg.
Yes, precisely. You're thinking off the same brain. We're wavelengthing
Perfect.
right there.
So there you go. Pretty much everything that you need to put together a budget gaming build. And all you need now is a simple 1920 by 1080 monitor, a copy of Windows or Linux if you want to go free, and any keyboard and mouse, and then you're ready to get into the game. So everything we described should come in around $700, and you could bring that down closer to $600 if you are super careful about your choices.
And I've been following people on the live chat. A $400 to $500 gaming build that you would actually still want to game on, not out of the question.
Cool.
Not hard with a little savvy and strategic shopping.
I agree. I was distracted by Marcel in chat said, is the white-haired guy in the background Albert Einstein? Yes.
That's our robot
most definitely.
Einstein.
Albert Einstein is in the background.
And he's super creepy.
And Mike, as
really
he's building,
creeps out
says,
Mike.
he's really creepy.
Yeah, everyone gets a little off-put.
So funny. So Mike, how's it going there?
How we looking, Mike?
What state is this build in currently?
Wait, oh, he's pushing a power button. Are we? Oh man, did we get there?
Wow, sir.
Look at that. That's
Very,
so excited.
very impressive. Hats off to Mike.
Mike, good job. I mean, it was a race at the end there. He was ripping that GPU out of my hands. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, we did have a cable in one of the top fans, but we fixed it. Fixing it live.
There we go. This is what happens.
I'm super impressed, Mike. That was awesome.
Very, very
Good
cool.
job. And we even have some decent lights on those fans. Folks, that's going to do it for our budget PC build discussion today. Good job, Mike.
Yes.
For more information, you can check out the link in the video description. Mike wrote a great article for Newegg Insider on this subject. So again, I mean, watching him work is always super fun, and you can get it straight from Mike's mouth. What what you can look for a good budget build. Before we wrap things up, we wanted to let you know about some of the deals currently live right now on Newegg.com, and you can find all of these by clicking the banner on the bottom of that Newegg Now page.
Yes.
So,
yeah, earlier we were talking about some straightforward,
Totally.
like very simplistic RAM, but as you probably know, RAM has gotten pretty fancy in the last few years, and we have some of our favorite fancy RGB RAM on sale right now. We get good feedback on this guy all the time. Check out the G-Skill Trident Z RGB series. We have discounts right now on both the 16 and 32 gigabyte bundles, around $90 for 16 gigabytes and less than $200 for 32, which is great. And again, we always get great feedback on this, so I'm always happy recommending this RAM.
for sure. Okay, so I was excited by the topic because for a budget build, we want a good budget monitor. And this Acer is a perfect fit for what we just built, what Mike just put together. So this is the Acer KG1 series, the KG221Q, which is not easy for me to say. 21.5 inch, 75 hertz, 1080p monitor on sale for less than $95, and it's AMD FreeSync. So if you go with an AMD GPU, you'll get the advantage of smoother gameplay. Perfect in that 60 to 80 frame per second range that we were just talking about. It's hard to imagine a better starter monitor for a better price.
Agreed. We also have some really cool smart home tech from Nest on sale right now. The second gen Nest Protect is a super smart smoke and carbon monoxide detector. It can be wired in or run on batteries and sends alerts to your phone. This is actually something I have in my house currently, and let me just tell you how nice it is when you're on vacation. Like if you're one of those people kind of like me who's like, I wonder if my house is burning down right now. You would know because it would tell your phone. So you'll know what's going on no matter where you are, which is really nice. You can also pick up a discounted Nest Learning Thermostat. We've got one of these in the studio, and I think I have the previous generation of this at home, but it's super intuitive and easy to use, and it even learns your schedule. And of course, you can also control that from your phone, and it's definitely an easy and useful way to get into smart home tech if that's the segment you were thinking about jumping into.
I feel bad for Beardy Baldy. I'm one of those, I hope my house is burning down right now, people.
Oh, no.
Just
House upgrade.
A little insurance fraud.
Oh, no.
No. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to point out in doing the build, because I'm the audio nerd, was, you know, your games are going to play well and run at a fast frame rate, but what about your ears? Right?
Your ears are also going to run at a fast frame rate.
Doesn't mean sacrificing good ear candy.
Okay.
So that's where this Corsair HS60 comes into play.
Yes.
So a super comfortable gaming headset, virtual 7.1 surround sound, 50 millimeter neodymium drivers, a good microphone so that you have game chat, perfect for PC or console gaming, whatever you want to do. Right now, less than $50.
Pretty good.
So again, putting all of this together, making sure that every step of the chain is well covered, from your eyes to your ears, mouse, keyboard, everything.
Get it all.
Get it all.
And then last up, one of the deals I wanted to shout out, we've got a great deal on the Samsung Q9FN Smart TV, which is super high end. It's got it's a QLED TV, like I said, super high end, all the bells and whistles, including UHD, HDR, and of course 4K resolution. And you'll want to check out the price on that one. And if you've been looking to upgrade, maybe now is the right time if you need a new TV.
Okay, so one more time, you can head over to newegg.com/Newegg Now to pick up some of the budget components we talked about today on the show. Click the banner, bottom of that page, find out our hand-picked deals. They're actually letting us choose.
It's funny that I know, right? The reason that I chose the TV upgrade deal, did anyone else see that super dark episode of Game of Thrones? Just throwing that out there. If you don't have a real nice TV, you might have seen even less of that.
Fox LA actually called me in to do a segment
on that,
how dark Game of Thrones was for their Tech Tuesday
We could do a whole episode just on what went into that. But yes, maybe that has caused you to think about a television upgrade, and then there you go. All right, so that's going to do it for us for the show today. But make sure that you check back in next month, because we're going to be going over everything new from Computex, one of the biggest hardware events of the year. And of course, we'll be looking ahead into E3. So that's going to be a super fun episode with so much to cover. Make sure that you guys check it out.
Yeah, and also make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, because we're going to have a bunch of videos from Computex. So when they start dropping, you want to make sure that bell icon has been properly smashed
Yes.
around the end of May.
How very YouTube-y of you. So, guys, this has been Newegg Now, and now you know. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bam.